This is some kitchen exhaust cleaning. This is capturing the wastewater off the roof. It goes down in here to a filter tub, which has a grate above the bottom so that you can put filters down in there and clean them. Like what he's doing here, you got a ball valve down there. You can clean all the filters in there. In other words, you're not laying them up against the side of the restaurant and running the water down into the storm drain. And this line here goes into the sand trap. I didn't show it to you, but the sand trap was a couple of 55-gallon drums on the other side of that wall. It was a homemade sand trap. Here's on the inside, and this is typically, you got to drape the hood down into a 55-gallon drum, and then at the bottom of it, it's similar to this. You can run that over to the sand trap, and most drains in the kitchen go to the sand trap. And most drains out into the eating area, if there are any, go to the storm sewer. And the slop sink, mop sink, goes to the sand trap. Not sand trap, I mean to be saying grease trap for a restaurant. So this is typical in there. There's several schools that go through this process and available for training. Just get on the internet and search. BMPs for disposal. This is a cistern type situation in a rural area where they took it up and they discharged into that particular thing. Actually, what they did, they discharged into that cistern until it got full, and then they called the sand trap company and they would come out and pump that thing out. All property discharge liability: surface contamination, groundwater contamination. Based on liabilities, the following disposal options for mobile contract cleaner are encouraged when legal to do. No all property discharge, directing the wastewater to the sanitary sewer, on-site, hauling off-site, and private environmental facility. Now, there's basically two types of storm sewer and sanitary sewer systems in the United States. If all your storm water and your sanitary sewer water goes through the same pipe, it's called a combined system. It's a combined sewer system. If you have separate pipes for your sewer collection line and the stormwater collection line, that's a separate. You got a sanitary sewer system and a storm sewer system. I'm supposed to say storm drain, so it's not connected up with a sanitary sewer. In most cities have the separate sewer system because it's all they have to remediate then is their sewage waste. They don't have to worry about the stormwater. Wastewater has many sources: medical, residential, restaurants, automotive, educational, religious, industry, and treatment plants. They all go to the sanitary sewer plant, and from there it's discharged out into the lakes, rivers, and streams through their NPDES permit, where they have to turn in a report annually on the discharge into, or their discharges into the environment. Municipalities may treat or not treat their stormwater. They can do it all, or they can just do part of it. It's up to each municipality to decide what they want to do. Basically, PODWs are basically designed to handle domestic waste, not industrial waste. So a lot of times there's a surcharge for industry for the discharge of the POTWs. And that's the case for the contract cleaners in Fort Worth. They have to pay an extra charge to be able to discharge to the sanitary sewer system. The total volume of wastewater generated by all cosmetic cleaners is insignificant when compared to the municipalities and their total treatment capacities. I talked about the economic revenue stream. While that's the best way and gets the highest compliance for the NPDES permit, is allow the contract cleaner to discharge into the sanitary sewer systems. Other trades say it affects their economic revenue streams and it gives a contract cleaner an advantage. So we can treat most of the time, but wastewater treatment infrastructure is built to handle domestic waste. Anything that is of greater strength than domestic sewage requires more effort to remove and may not come out. Ladder lines. Okay, here's the street right here. On out here is the public sewer system. Here's private property. So your clean-out ports are going to be in this area here. So the clean-out port, and there's an example one, is going to be on the outside of almost those facilities. That's if this line gets clogged up, that you can take that loose and clean out this sewer line. Now then, it's legal, since it's on private property, for the contractor to unscrew that and discharge into it with the property owner's permission. But so you can't get into this area. You have to enter the sanitary sewer system on private property, not public property. Sanitary sewer discharge location: utility sinks, cleanouts, inside floor drains, commodes, sinks, cleanout stubs, which are connected to the sanitary sewer. That's another example of a cleanout stub, and that's an example of an inside utility basin inside a restaurant. Some POTWs have trucked wastewater disposal sites to receive truck wastewater. These sites might be at the POTW or remote locations. You may make phone calls in your market area to see what your disposal options are. You're going to have to look and talk. This is on-site disposal. This was a restaurant out on a barge. The wastewater was pumped back to a holding tank and taken up in there and put into an old cistern, which was pumped out by a sand trap service. If you got large volumes of grease, you need to pick them up and put them into a grease container. Those are not to be confused with a trash dumpster. They'll say for grease only. So a lot of times the contractor doing kitchens, he will get anywhere from 5 gallons to 55 gallons of grease out of a system, depending on how well it's being taken care of. Never remove the sanitary sewer or the storm sewer covers. Those are city property. Those are not on private property. Always filter the wastewater to remove silt, sand, sludge, and filter debris through water through a 200 May screen or smaller. To remove the hydrocarbons, an oil absorbent boom or filter and oil water separator. You want to use the oil water separator, grease trap, sand trap if it's available. Use remediation methods and discharge conveyance that remove the most amount of contamination. Sand traps, grease traps, oil water separators, clarifiers, which are connected to the sanitary sewer system. They are located at truck washes, car wash bays, automatic car washes at gas stations, restaurants, and various other businesses. Use the following if the aforementioned are not available: utility sinks, clean-out stubs, inside floor drains, commode sinks, and modes and sinks. Well, I thought I hit that. There's your clean-out stub. But they want it to be your last choice. It means nothing else is available. And you should obtain the permission of the location owner before you use any of those. Limits of discharge. If satisfactory discharge limits cannot be reached with continuous water flow when batch processing is available, In other words, if you can't get into your limits, you can put a holding tank. I've seen them 2, 3, 4, 500 gallons. Once you collect your wastewater, then they neutralize it to around 7. Depends on whether it's highly caustic or highly acid, depending on how you neutralize it. Get with your chemical supplier to get some recommendations on what to use for your particular item that you're trying to neutralize. Biodegradable does not mean non-toxic. It only means it can be easily processed at the sanitary sewer plant or your POTW. It does not mean it can be discharged into the storm drain. Remediation methods. The amount and type of remediation often depends on volume and nature of the wastewater. Your job is to find the most cost-effective method and still achieve compliance with the rules. Contracts often go to whomever can capture and dispose of the wastewater in the least yet compliant manner. Simple and inexpensive mesh screens, oil absorbent pads, booms, and pillows. Existing underground oil water separators, grease traps, sand traps, and clarifiers. Other more costly systems, but one that may be necessary, includes vacuum systems with filtration, pre-treatment units, limited recycling units, total recycling units, flocculation, absorption media, and so forth. Basically, the technology that's used in mobile power wash rigs does not remove the detergents, the total dissolved solids, pesticides, solvents, antifreeze, emulsified oil, and grease, which means the longer you recycle, the more concentrated it gets. Most of the people that recycle will recycle 1 or 2 days, purge their system, and recharge it with fresh water in order for it not to turn hazardous. Normally, the sanitary sewer department's going to want to know where you're discharging your concentrated waste to in advance. In most cases, for structures or surfaces surrounded by landscaping, wastewater that normally drains into it is allowed. For low polluted surfaces, not for heavy polluted surfaces like parking lots and restaurants, obtain the property owner's permission, pre-clean and filter the wastewater. You may collect the wastewater and dispose of it directly into the landscaping. No off-property discharge. pH should be between 6 and 9, and generally limit 1,000 gallons per acre per month. Discharges to the storm drain containing detergent chemical cannot go to the storm drain. Washing with cold water without chemicals may be discharged to the same drain for services that are not contaminated with oil and grease, like sidewalks. Common cold water jobs are sidewalks, driveways, building exteriors, home fences, plaza areas, and car lots. Always pre-clean the oil and grease spots with kitty litter and debris.